Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the RDA. I hope you are doing well, man. Huge topic, one that we've been waiting to go into and dive into. Barcelona, the cultural rebuild at Barcelona, the rebuild of the football club, one of the great teams in the history of the sport we all love. We're here to talk about that. Of course, I'm here with Retha, so it's just me and him today, man. The dynamic duo, my partner in crime, man. First of all, how are you doing today?
No, I'm pretty good. It's a beautiful day. Sunny what? Saturday. I'm forgetting what day it is. So yeah, excited to do this video.
You've been at home because of COVID and you don't know what day it is. Yeah, no, it is a good day. Good vibes, good positive vibes, and hopefully it's a good show, man. Barcelona, first of all, um, where do you stand with Barcelona? Most of the people on this channel know you as a Manchester United fan, so you obviously like Barcelona a lot. Why do you
Mhm.
like them? Why are you such a huge fan of them? And what drew you towards the club? And also, how long you've been following them for?
Um, I think I'm what you can call a new age fan. I didn't completely see the glory days of maybe let's say I saw the end, like Guardiola. I came in when maybe they were coming to an end, and yeah, for me it was the football. I think when you watch Barcelona or when you watch Barcelona back there, as no matter who was winning trophies at that time, their football was class above the rest. They played this amazing football, and they just had this culture of togetherness and unity and family. And for me, that was very appealing. And there's this ideology of what they used to call perfection. We don't really hear that anymore, but it was like they plan their game and they run their club to the finest details. And for that, I just fell in love with this club because I think it epitomized what a football club should be. But nowadays, we don't really see that anymore. It's been very tough. And I think over the last few, with Koeman coming in, we've seen
Yeah.
it slightly go back to normal. I know it's only a few games, but I think we've seen enough progress to say that maybe Koeman is a better fit for the job. But yeah, no, it's been worrying times over the last few years. Over the last, what, 5 or 6 years, I think we've lost our identity, is maybe the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan of, people can do whatever they want. I'm not judging or trying to make myself come across as better, but I've never been a fan of supporting more than one football club, even if they're albeit in two different leagues. I obviously love Real Madrid. If Manchester United vanished from existence, I would probably follow and watch a lot of Real Madrid. But what you said there about culture, togetherness, and unity, that's what I feel with Manchester United. I had someone the other day say to me that football fans have this blind loyalty towards football clubs, because I was basically saying that no matter what happened to Manchester United, I'll always support them, and he was like, it was
Mm,
blind loyalty, and I was like, damn, bro, like that to me is amazing that especially younger people don't understand the value of loyalty with the football club, man, because to me, there's no such thing as blind loyalty. Blind loyalty, you can have blind loyalty towards a manager, you can have blind loyalty towards a player, but to support a football club, that's not blind loyalty. You support the football club. Imagine where Liverpool would be if they didn't have loyal football fans
mm,
when they fell off the cliff in the late 90s. You know,
mm.
because all the plastic Liverpool fans vanished, and it was just that core group of
Yeah.
global and local fans that kept the club alive. I've known people who've been Liverpool fans since as long as I've been on this planet. Older people,
Mm.
obviously,
I
and
mean,
that's important.
it's like being
Yeah,
in a committed relationship, really, because it won't
yeah.
always be rosy. And being in love with someone and being in a relationship with them, there'll be tough times, but you have to be loyal and stick through those times. And it's just how it is. I mean,
If you
you
love
don't
them,
really, yeah. I feel like you don't really choose, you know. I mean, I support Barca and Man United, and like, I do sometimes feel like, why don't I just support one? And what does it really say? But like, it's not something I chose. I just fell in love with both these teams, and I just have this strong affection towards them.
yeah, that's what I say to people. Affection, passion, whatever you want to call it. It's not something you can turn off. It's not a button you can press.
Mm,
People seem to think that football fans are overly passionate and melodramatic when things go wrong, and I'm like, nah. Like, we actually go through the full range of emotions because that's what a fan does of any sport, of any industry, of any culture. When you are emotionally invested in something because it has some sort of you have some sort of affiliation to it, be it maybe you've put money into it, maybe you've put a lot of time and energy into it, which football fans put all three really. Like us watching football games directly helps the football club because TV deals are a thing, right? And us being loyal to the club, all that sort of thing, that's energy, that's time, and that's money that you've invested into this thing. It's not easy to just walk away, and I finally know the difference between a plastic fan and a real fan. A plastic fan is a fan when things go wrong and things don't seem right. They're like, ooh, nah, this is not for me, And I don't know if a plastic fan is the same as a glory hunter, because I feel like plastic fans aren't necessarily glory hunters. You have people who say they support Manchester United, but they don't even know who the current manager is. That to me is a plastic fan. They're not necessarily a glory hunter because clearly they'll never say they support any other team but this one team. But they're still plastic because they're not really adding any value to the team. That's my definition of a plastic fan. You're not adding any value to the team. At least glory hunters watch the games, so So that's a beautiful thing, man. So Barcelona, they recently got Ronald Koeman. They sacked the manager, very, very harsh. After that A2 defeat that we shall not speak about to Bayern Munich. What do you think of Ronald Koeman, man? Do you think he's the right guy for the job at Barca?
I think he is, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. Maybe you're going to ask a question about maybe what's happening at the top, but I feel like much like with United, there's a bigger problem at the club, and there's only so much Ronald Koeman can do, really. I feel like I was watching Mark Gobish the other day, and he described the situation at United like a cancer, which spreads from the top going downwards. And I feel like there's a situation that's happening at Barcelona, maybe not as intensive as it is at United, but that's what's happening. I feel like around 2010, there was this guy who came in called his name Sandro Rossi, and he became our president. And he just kind of changed the mentality of the club. He shifted away from the whole culture of breeding young talent, and he was more focused on the commercial side of the thing. To give you an example of this guy's mentality, we used to have, if you follow Barcelona, we used to have a UNICEF sponsor, but that was just for charity. So we weren't really making any money from that. He came in, got Qatar, and just went very deep into the whole commercializing the club thing. And
running it like a business.
Yeah. And it didn't have a talk at that time because you're still enjoying the fruits of previous managers and previous chairmen or presidents, as they call it in Barcelona. And we still had success, but I feel like he laid the foundation for our destruction because eventually he had to move on because he was actually found guilty he was arrested for money laundering. So that just shows you the type of person who was running our club. And then his second-hand man became president, who we know today is Bartomeu. And decision-making has just been lopsided, really. I mean, Sandro, they put so much effort into making this club a commercial brand. They put so much effort into working with news outlets to spin stories to make the club look bright, like United does, as you know. And they've moved away from the football. And it just seems like there's more focus on business and football. And it seems like there are football people at the club, but they're not the right football people, and they're not making the right decisions. I mean, we saw the fights between Abidal and Messi. So I just feel like that's been a problem at this club, and it's filtered through right from the top to the players and all that in decision making, into the buying players, and it has really stagnated our club because I think the biggest example is our backline. I mean, it is clear to anyone who watches football that the biggest problem at Barcelona is their defending, but we haven't brought in a defender. It makes no sense. We've brought in players for hundreds and hundreds of millions, and
it sounds so familiar, by the way.
Hundreds and hundreds of millions. It just seems like there's no plan. The Griezmanns, all of them in this world. So I think that is the big problem, a cultural change in Barcelona. And luckily, not like United, the problem is there's owners, they own the club, and there's nothing we can do about that. Luckily at Barcelona, there's a whole system of putting in board members and presidents. So I think it is getting better. We're getting to a phase where that's going to pass, where Bartomeu is going to get out. And it sounds like the people who are in against him do respect the philosophies of the club, do respect the culture of breeding young players. And I think, going back to your question, sorry for going a little bit off topic, but going back to your question, we're starting to see that with Koeman coming in because one, let me speak specifically about Koeman. I think he understands what needs to happen in Barcelona, and he's ruthless. Much like when Pep Guardiola came in, had to make big changes. He's ruthless. He's coming. He sold Luis Suarez. Doesn't matter if you're a legend. If you're not working for the club anymore, you have to go. He's got people like Vidal off the books. He's got people like Rakitic off the books. And we are now coming in with these young new players like Pedri and Trincao. And you can see that we're trying to go back to this whole philosophy of breeding our own talent. And in terms of the style, I feel like the management also didn't understand how to appoint managers, Barcelona managers. I feel like they just didn't know the philosophy, they didn't know the playing style. And over the years, the whole tiki-taka style, you kind of see has been dying out and hasn't been at the level it used to be. I feel like Koeman, from the few games, he seems to understand it better. He seems to understand that there needs to be an intensity in how we play.
Yeah.
There's a certain way Barcelona plays. So, yeah, and I think it's looking better, Koeman. Personally, I think he's the right man.
I think everything you've said there is hammer like on the nail. You know, I hear a lot of people saying United should just forget about the United way and move on from their culture. And I hate to bring United into this, but I think there's so many parallels between United and Barcelona in terms of they were both clubs, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I obviously don't follow Barcelona as much as you do, but they're both clubs that, number one, prioritize youth over signing Galactico players. Number one, first and foremost. Number two, they promote this idea. I think the primary difference between Barcelona and Manchester United is Barcelona, their culture, you can see it in their playing style, but it's not just that. It's the fact that they find a good way of balancing people from the youth academy, bringing players up from the youth academy, and having world-class talent on the pitch to nurture that talent. Whereas with Manchester United, what they did under the Fergie days so well, even when the Glazers took over, was signing players who were in the early stages of breaking through and becoming that world-class talent. Like, you think about it, Ronaldo came from Sporting. Nobody knew who he was until he came to Manchester United. We gave him a platform to go to Real Madrid. David Beckham, nobody really knew who he was before he came to Manchester United. We gave him that platform. He moved on. Cantona, Vanessa Roy, all these players. Roy Keane was relegated with Nottingham Forest the season United signed him. He was in a relegated team. He came to Manchester United, and now he became this legendary leader amongst men. So United had this very clear pattern of signing players at a very low price who looked like they were on the brink of breaking through and were looking for that big move to finally break through and become a world-class talent. Whereas with Barcelona, it seemed like they fast-tracked that and went, no, we're just going to sign the finished product, but we're also going to have youth players in our team so that we keep it together. And with players like Xavi, with players like Iniesta, with players like Busquets, those were generational players. That's another thing with Barcelona. They had this appeal of a club to where you didn't need to leave. If once you came to Barcelona, you could stay there for 4, 5, 6 seasons, 7 seasons. It was the dream. Much like Real Madrid, players stay there. Players who play there at the highest level stay there for a very long time because they're part of the family. They don't need to leave. Where else are you going to go? You've already reached the pinnacle of football. And that's the difference between United and Barca. United was just a stepping stone for most players to go on. Yes, there were the Giggses, the Everas who spent most of their careers here. But for the most part, the world-class players all left. Even Rooney. Remember the summers of Rooney being linked to Real Madrid, kind of like what's happening with Pogba now. He always wanted to leave, but he never got the chance to actually, materialize that. And why would you leave when you're winning Premier Leagues anyways? So I think that's a very good point. And I think what people underestimate. Yeah. No, you can go.
It just goes back to a lack of an identity, really, because we're not saying clubs like Madrid and Chelsea can't win titles, but they have a clear mandate on how they do it. They're going to go out and spend in every single position. And if you're going to do that, go full throttle at that. If you're going to invest in youth, do that. If you're going to balance, do that. But don't be in this position where it just seems like you're patching holes into the football and there's no clear vision and clear objectives you can reach, because that seems like that's the problem at United, and that's the problem we've had at Barcelona.
Exactly. And that's what I try and explain to people. People are like, oh, why are you guys having such a meltdown about signing, Cavani? Why are you having such a meltdown about signing Di Maria, Falcao? And if you look at Barcelona, why are Barcelona fans having a meltdown about Coutinho, Dembele, and Griezmann? Those are good players. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not understanding the point, Chief. Football clubs that are run well have a plan. They don't care what you think of that plan. They don't care what the next football club thinks of that plan. That's their plan. And they're going to see that plan out until there's enough evidence for the board to say, hang on a minute, this plan is not working. Let's move to something else. And the football clubs that stay relevant at the highest level, decade after decade after decade, that plan doesn't just come from some sort of business thing that they, some sort of 5-year plan that they just drew up in 1 month in a board meeting, right? It's a plan that resonates and correlates closely with the identity of the club. That's why history is so important to fans, real fans, not plastic fans, because the culture is what draws you towards the club. And I think what would draw me towards Barcelona and why I have so much respect for Barcelona, it is that thing of family. It is that thing of identity. We're not just going to spend 100 million pounds to solve our problems. We're going to build a team that sustains itself. We're going to build a team that doesn't need any new signings for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Yes, it's going to need 1 or 2 signings here and there, but it's always just a little tweak here and there. It's always just a little tweak. For the most part, the system is perfect. Like for years upon years upon years, Barcelona's midfield stayed the same. Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and then it was just guys around them coming in and coming and going, coming and going. But those 3 stayed constant. Messi on the right wing. You guys change strikers every now and then, but Suarez was there for a pretty long time. Neymar left, it happens, whatever. So that's what I like about Barcelona. You had those pillars in your team that stayed constant. Whereas with Chelsea and Real Madrid, when you compare Chelsea teams in this decade with the last decade and the decade before, it's so different. There's almost no sense of identity, unless you think they're spending the way they spend in the transfer market. That is their identity, which, in my opinion, is just a bit shallow. I'm sorry, I think that's a bit shallow, and that's the same reason why I'll never support Real Madrid, because Real Madrid have the same, kind of Galactico philosophy. We're just going to spend money. We're going to attract the best talent, and I respect it, but it's not for me. I prefer a club that does it the hard way. I prefer a club that sustains itself through its own revenue streams, much like United and Barca. United and Barca didn't just have rich owners who swooped in and spent billions of pounds. No, we were successful on the pitch, and we used that money to reinvest back into the football club. And it's this cycle that sustains itself, and that's what I find so beautiful.
Yeah, no, I also respect and have no problem with it, but you could say that it kind of does take away from the beauty of football, the whole developing your own talent and running a football club. So I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, and what's happening with PSG at the moment, football's gone, guys. Manchester City weren't anything in the last 15 years. Now all of a sudden they're one of the biggest teams in the world. Football's gone. Yeah. Hard work, youth systems, gone. It's all about who's at the club and who can get an open check with. But let's not go too far off topic. Lionel Messi, the situation with him, what are your opinions on that? Messi's obviously, when you think of Barcelona, the one man's picture comes into your head, and it's Lionel Messi, 9 times out of 10. Unless you're a really, really old Barca fan, and you go way back in the day. What do you think of the Messi situation?
Can you blame him, though? I mean, this guy's given so much to this club, and he's been there for all the problems, and he's just had enough. Year in, year out, ineptitude from the board, ineptitude from management, recruitment. So I don't blame him for wanting to leave the club. I feel like the club, in a way, did him wrong, because it was said that there's a clause in his contract that he can leave for free. I don't know in what mind they made that clause. He can leave for free. And then he's been asking Bartomeu over and over and over again that I want to leave the club. I want to leave the club. I've had it. You're not doing this, this and that. You're not delivering what you promised. And he's been saying, it's okay. You can leave it at the season. And the end of the season came. He went back on his word. So I don't blame him. And for a player who's been so passionate about the club and has said that this club and the city has given him everything in his life, for him to just turn like that and just say, I love this club, but it's just not it anymore. For players like Xavi to say, I don't want to be associated with the club while this management is still here. For people like Johan Cruyff, maybe not recently, but back in the day, to talk about how things have changed the club, it just shows that the running of the club is the club's not where it used to be. The culture's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what to say, really. It sucks as a Barca fan because it's Messi. You don't want Messi. You don't want the best player in the world to leave your club. But it's just symbolic of our problems, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, but I think the more interesting question, Messi's obviously a great talking point. But for me, the more interesting question, and a question I've wanted an answer for a very, very long time, is what happens after Messi? Because people at Real Madrid had the same question, and I was like, Ronaldo was always going to leave Real Madrid. He was never going to be the player that stays there for 10 plus seasons. And I think Real Madrid would be fine without Ronaldo. That's what they've always done. They did it. They were fine without Fat Ronaldo. No offense, Ronaldo, I respect you. Mr. R9. I call you Fat Ronaldo because it's just funny. Okay.
Mm.
No to body shaming. The guys like Zidane, Kaká, they've had big players, Real Madrid, and that's always been their thing. Real Madrid is bigger than you. What happens after Barca get rid of Messi finally? Like, where do you think this club is going? And how long do you think it will take you guys to reach the pinnacle of competitive football again? Winning Champions Leagues every 3 or 4 seasons. You're obviously still in contention for the La Liga. That's not going to change.
Yeah. Look, I feel like they've made it difficult for themselves by not selling him because we're going to get nothing at the end of the season, which is the stupidest business move I've ever heard in my life. So we're in a position where we're losing a player who's been so influential and we're getting nothing for him, assuming that he is going to leave. But I feel like we're not in as bad a situation, or we shouldn't be in as bad a situation as Real Madrid, because I feel like Real Madrid rely on the whole buying thing. And like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you sell Ronaldo and you bring in Hazard, and maybe that philosophy works in an internal universe where Hazard comes and hits the ground
That's
running.
a watered down version of it, though.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it's very risky. I feel like it's much riskier. I feel like with Barcelona, there's this incredible youth system there, and I think that will work in their favor. I feel like we're seeing players like Ansu Fati come out now, and if you have such a good youth system, I feel like there will always be a running of really talented players who understand your ethos because it's been drilled in from the lowest level. So in that sense, I think we'll do well. But at the same time, one can say Barcelona, like visibly, we've seen how much they rely on Messi. It's no question. They rely on Messi so much. So like most of the goals, yes, it's getting better this season. Once again, a few games, but most of our goals come from Messi. So yeah, they definitely will be in a feeding in process. There definitely will be a transition, but I think with our youth system, we should come out okay. And
I think, go on.
No, it's fine. So go.
Okay, I was going to say, I think a lot of people don't realize how complex the system at Real Madrid is, because on the one hand, it's like, yeah, they do buy a lot of star players, but what people don't realize is Real Madrid have leveraged their success and their history. Again, this word history, it's very important. No player in world football would turn down a Real Madrid contract except a Barcelona player or a player who plays at a direct rival club and they're really loyal. But even then, we've seen players move from like Atletico Madrid straight into rival teams, right? No player in world football that I've seen would turn down a contract at Real Madrid. You look at, the fact that Rooney wanted to go there says it all. This guy is winning Premier League titles. He's won Champions League titles. He's one of the greatest strikers in the Premier League, and he still dreams of going to this club. That just says it all for me. And the difference between Real Madrid versus Man City versus Chelsea and all these other new age clubs that have suddenly come with spending money is, I think with Real Madrid, behind the scenes, there is a family, there is a culture, there is a sense of unity. There is people in that football club who, yes, whilst there's a lot of money involved, care deeply about that club and want it to succeed, unlike at United. At United, there's rats who just are obsessed with stealing money and don't really care about the image of they don't really care about what people think of when they look at the United logo nowadays. At Real Madrid, it's different. I look at someone like Sergio Ramos and I'm like, Sergio Ramos isn't a defender they just signed. He's been there forever,
Yeah, like someone like Florentino Perez. He's in charge. Maybe there's a bit bad press around him because he's the one who spends money like nobody's business. But he cares about the club. And he clearly understands football. And he knows what needs to happen, what people need to be in what positions for it to work. So with him, it's just a different philosophy. But at United, it's just a lack of structure. And that's what we've seen at Barcelona in the last few years as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Real Madrid would not sign a 33-year-old Cavani who's been a free agent for 8 months. They would never do that. Real Madrid have made their fair share of dodgy signings, I admit. The Adebayos of this world. But for the most part, Real Madrid attract proven talent, fam. I don't care what anybody says about Eden Hazard. That guy was a baller at Chelsea. Like, you can't say that signing didn't make sense. It's just one of those rare situations or rare circumstances where a good player just fails. It happens. We've seen it with Griezmann at Barcelona. The guy's won a World Cup. He was one of the best players at Atletico Madrid. It just hasn't worked out. We've seen it with Pogba at Manchester United. Pogba won a World Cup while he was at Manchester United. So he's not a terrible footballer. We've seen this before. I think Real Madrid and Barcelona have one thing in common. they are able to attract star-studded quality. And if they can find a way of leveraging the ethos, the culture, the brand of the club, as well as the history, to attract star-studded quality, but still have players coming through the youth and generational players like your Sergio Ramoses, who will stay around the club for long and who love the club, I think they'll be fine. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
And
Like,
especially Madrid. Yeah.
yeah. To answer your next question, I feel like that whole attraction, I feel like they need to fix the situation now and not risk losing it, because I feel like seeing at United that it's not horrible. We can still attract some players and we still have that thing, but like it seems like nowadays players are coming for the money, and money is a big factor. And I feel like it has destabilized our wage structure, and it's just caused so many problems. So players look at United. It's not the whole Ferguson win trophies anymore. They worry. They worry, and we're now having to convince them. So Barcelona must be careful they don't go down that road. And I think we'll be fine, because for those of you who don't know, we're currently in the middle of a motion of no confidence. We had to get about 16,000 signatures from members to set it into motion, and now there's going to be a referendum where 66% of members have to vote against Bartomeu, and if that happens, him and his board will be out. And I think it will. Fingers crossed. I think it will. And yeah, I think we're in a good position, because, like I said, the structure of who's in management at Barcelona works in our favor. There can't be a situation where people are in power for too long. There will be a time where they get cut off. Yeah. And I think within the next year, we're going to see that. I think as much as Bartomeu has been a horrible president, he set a good foundation at the moment for the next person to come in. He's brought in Koeman, who's a really good manager, and I think understands the ethos better. They've shifted out the Deadwood, they've brought in youth. So I think we're going in the right direction. And to be honest, maybe this is being overly confident, but I think next year, new president will come in, a new board will come in, and I hope we've made considerable progress in the league. I think we can win the league this season, and I think we'll be in a position.
100%.
I think we'll be in a position to spend money in a situation where the debt was gone, and we can afford, and the space and there's room for new players to come and take us to the highest level, really. So I don't think it'll take long. I think 2, at most 3 seasons, we'll be back at the top.
Yeah, 100%. I think the thing is, the difference between Real Madrid and Barca, and the reason why I like Real Madrid more than Barcelona personally, is I've always liked the glamour, as stupid as it sounds. I love the fact that they prioritize the Champions League. It seems like they really enjoy winning the Champions League over the La Liga, which I like, because it's almost we don't care. Take it. We're going for this big boy in Europe.
Once you win 32 La Liga trophies, might as well focus on the Champions League.
No, I love that about Real Madrid. You talked about Barcelona being the standard of perfection. I've always seen Madrid as the standard of perfection, really. Look, I'm a Manchester United fan, and if Manchester United offered me a contract tomorrow, I would be the happiest man in the world to play for Manchester United. It's my club. But objectively speaking, if I was a football agent, I would advise my clients, depending on their age, if they were younger, I would advise them to go to United and build their career first and use that as a platform to go somewhere else. But if they were in their prime years and they were looking for a move to a club where they were going to win trophies, I would say Real Madrid. Because I think the problem with United is it's deeper than just the Sir Alex Ferguson thing. You said there that we can't attract star-studded quality players anymore because of the Sir Alex Ferguson thing. I think maybe it's half of that, because the Sir Alex Ferguson thing is gone now and we're just this sort of top 4 club. I think it's half of that. But if you look at clubs like Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, Man City, Liverpool, obviously Man City, Liverpool being the biggest ones, those clubs can still attract quality players because they're football clubs. I think the biggest problem with United is when players come here, it's not their first choice. Unless it's a situation like Bruno, where they genuinely dreamed of playing to the club and one of their national team squad mates recommended the club to them. I don't think many players pick United first. I think United's always the ultimatum. It's always it's the second option. It's the, you didn't get your first move, let's go there because it's better. It's much better than the rest, because United, make no mistake, playing for United is still much better than 60 to 70% of the teams in the Premier League, I would rate. So it still has that pool, but it's not the same as a Barcelona Madrid. If you see Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and then Man United all sitting on the table, Man United it's at the back of your mind, bro. It's at the back of your mind. You're there looking at Barca and Bayern, and you're like, And then you look at Madrid like Champions League, but Bayern just won the Champions League anyways. So, it's not the same anymore. And I think that's the biggest problem with United. It's not a football club anymore. I think if we still played good football, right? And we were a bit more consistent. And maybe, yes, let's just say we didn't win trophies, but maybe if we're still in the Champions League, I still think we'd be able to pull star-starter quality. But who wants to come to a big-name club, just a has-been club, to come play Europa League, fam? For real. I know we're in the Champions League now, but like I'm going off the recent past. Manchester United has been in the Europa League more times than not, more times than they should be for a club of their size. So I just think those other clubs have a big pool. I think Arsenal's suffering to the same thing now because they've been in the Europa League for a few years. But like, why wouldn't you go to Chelsea over United? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I feel like every time we have any show that's different from United, we can't help but to divert to United because we love United. And there's so many. There's so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the reason why I brought United into this is because there's so many parallels between United and Barca and Real Madrid and those big clubs, because United was once a massive, massive club. That's the only reason I brought them into it.
Yeah.
You know. But what were you saying?
But I wanted to ask this question. We see Barcelona. They have been struggling, but they have the structure where not the same people run the club, and like it's a thing where you vote in the board members and you vote them out. And I think there's the same thing in Germany, and I think in Germany it's regulated throughout the whole league. So do you think in the Premier League it should be done that there's less power? And you know, maybe this goes against the whole capitalist approach, but it should be a system where if you're going to be playing in the Premier League, if you're going to be playing in our league, there needs to be a system where there's less power in terms of your board members, in terms of who runs the club. And there needs to be a system where members of the club can vote people in, vote people out. And do you think that will improve football?
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%. You know, 100%. Just to end off the show, you know, we had a debate a few years ago, right? And it was this conflated debate between politics and football and the similarities. And you said to me, why do I like capitalism in politics, but I don't like capitalism in football? It sounds like a double standard. And I was like, on the surface, that sounds like a brilliant question. But I'm not afraid of that question because, nigga, politics and football are two different things. Football should not be a place where greedy people come to milk the history and the culture and the loyal fan base, milk them dry of their money. That shouldn't be happening in football. If that happens in politics, cool, but that's the best system we have in order to allow the good people and the genuinely good Samaritans in this world to go out and thrive. People who don't come from multi backgrounds because of a capitalist system can actually start something from nothing and do it. We've all heard this before. If you want to sugarcoat it as the American dream, whatever, but it's all around the world. If it wasn't for capitalism, yes, capitalism has its disadvantages, but it allows everyday ordinary people to go out and do things that they wouldn't otherwise be allowed to do, say, in a communist society. In a communist society, everyone's equal, but do you really want to be forced to be capped at a certain level? You know, some of us actually want to achieve greatness. Some of us actually want to do things that aren't just ordinary. Some of us don't just want to sit and pay bills, even if we're all equal. You know, and I think that's what capitalism allows. It allows that freedom. But in football, it's not the same, man. Like, I think the capitalist approach in football has ruined football because it's so commercialized, number one, and number two, a lot of it has become about profit and revenue, and even if you argue it from a football point of view, like, but Marcus, what about teams like Chelsea? Don't you think they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a capitalist system in football? Fair point, but should a team like Chelsea be allowed to spend as much money as they do? Should a team like Manchester City be allowed to go from basically nothing to where they are now, whilst teams like Burnley, teams like Brighton, teams like Sheffield, teams like Wolves just sit there and go, dude, you know, I wish we had rich owners. You know, that's not fair in my opinion. Yeah. Football shouldn't be like that. That's one of the primary reasons why I'll never fully commit myself to watching F1, because that's such a money-driven sport. Like, the team with the best engineers literally has the fastest car, but it's supposed to be a race. But you literally have a faster car than everyone else in the race because you have a better engineering team. It's weird. I don't think sports should be like about cheating. That. Really. Sports should be competitive. It's not cheating, but yeah, it's cheating. It's basically cheating, and it's the same as football. I would argue this with any club. RB Leipzig. Everybody talks about their youth. Wow, youth. Look at how they don't spend money. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't youth facilities cost money? Doesn't it cost money to build a football club that didn't exist before 2008, but has now made a Champions League final? Like, it's so sketchy. And what makes it even more sketchy is there's a team called RB Salzburg that isn't as successful as Leipzig, but they're owned by the same people or by the same brand because they're both sponsored by Red Bull. That is dodgy, fam. You know, like, so I don't know. I don't know why somebody, you know, unless you were German and you were born in that particular city, wherever that team resides, I don't know why you'd support RB Leipzig, you know? I don't know what cultural or sort of, you know, what the ethos of the club what part of that would resonate with you as a football
If
fan?
I'm not mistaken, I think it existed before they bought it. If I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
yeah, it existed, but like Leipzig, the club Leipzig, the new like brand and stuff, what it is now, didn't exist before 2008. And I just think I don't know why a person would support a club like that. Maybe it's because of the youth. I don't know, you know. But I think what has always been a big appeal when I look at the loyal football fans who aren't glory hunters, who support their team to thick and thin, it's always because the culture of the club, the ethos of the club, and maybe the playing style of the club. Those three things, and maybe a player that they liked played for that club. So those four things, you know, those four things resonate very deeply with what they enjoy, what they love to see out of the sport. And so all these new age clubs that are spending money, that's not what I like to see out of the sport. So I would never support clubs like that. The difference between and all those other teams, even though Madrid have the same philosophy, Madrid have been around for long. So Madrid's money didn't come from oil. It didn't come from rich owners.
Yeah.
It came from being a dominant team in the 90s. And that's why I love Real Madrid. That's why I love Barcelona. That's why I love Bayern Munich. Total football fan. None of this, let's just get rich owners and fast track to success. I don't think that's nice, bro. I think it just commercializes everything. Even the Premier League. People talk about the Premier League being the most competitive league in the world. Well, you look at who's won the Premier League in the last 4 years, and you realize it's actually become a two-horse race. Maybe
it's not in the true spirit of sport anymore.
it's not. It's much like Spain. You know, it's either going to be Liverpool, City, or Chelsea, because Chelsea win it every now and then. You know, since United, nobody else. You know, Leicester, that was a fluke. Come on. Besides United, nobody else knocks on the door. Arsenal used to do it when we were still relevant. So it used to be us and Arsenal and Chelsea every now and then. But that's faded away. It's a three-horse race now, or two-horse race. So I don't know. But anyways, I think that about wraps up the show. We went kind of off topic there. I hope you enjoyed that show about Barcelona, man. And if you do want more shows like this in the future, let us know in the comments down below. Or if you're too shy, just hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button as well. It helps the channel grow. It helps us with the algorithm because, you know, YouTube and her shady algorithm. You need them likes, fam. You need them likes and you need them subs. It's been your boy TripleM and Retha. Catch you in the next one. Peace out. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.